Welcome to the Press Play and Run podcast, the podcast for runners that don't really know they're runners, put a stick on their trainers, press play and run just in case. Press Play and Run will give me, Ryan, or Scottish Runner to some of you on Instagram, the chance to shine a light on everyday runners from clubs and couches across the United Kingdom and beyond. Each week, we'll delve into everything from park runs to playlists, trainers to tantrums and mini runs to marathons. We will look to shine a light on the stories of some incredible everyday runners from the running community and hold them hostage until they pick a track to add to the Press Play and Run playlist, which you can search for and add on Spotify. So whether you're dragging yourself off the couch or taking your first tentative steps in running, or you're one of those weird people invested at the front of the pack, we look forward to joining you every other week on your long runs to keep you company and entertained. Until then, your only job is to press play and run. I'm delighted to be joined in episode 6 by two members of Emancipated Run Crew. And in addition to both being members of the crew, we actually have one of the co-founders with us. So welcome to the Press Play and Run podcast, Jules Stevenson and Nina Ashton.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. It's really good to be here, Ryan.
Jules, I actually stopped over that name there because I've got Julia and Jules written down and I don't know if I should be using the Sunday name.
Well, if you can call me Jules, I'm only Julia if you're very naughty, or if I'm very naughty, actually. But no, Jules is fine. Jules is absolutely fine.
If my track record's anything to go by, it'll be Julia by about 25 past, because usually I get to find myself in some kind of trouble. So I'll try my best. So thank you both for being here, and I'm delighted to get you on. The timing has sort of aligned for me because International Women's Day, as we know, is on the day that this podcast is aired, and that's going to be pushed forward for us for a week. So I usually put this out bi-weekly, but I wanted to do something to mark that occasion. And when the stars aligned and I knew I was getting you both on at the same time, it just seemed too good. It was an open goal and I didn't want to pass it up.
Well, we're pleased to be featured as part of that celebration. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll come to explain how I even became aware of the work that you do. But could we kick off maybe? So I am aware because of just over the last few weeks following the journey of Emancipated Run Crew and seeing the work at the National Running Show and some of the work with Pete Cooper, which I'll come to. But could you maybe kick us off, Jules, just by telling us who or what Emancipated Run Crew is and how it came to be, and then we'll find out a bit about, Nina, your involvement as well.
Yeah, so Emancipated Run Crew is a running community, a family actually. We're like a family, which was born to encourage Black and brown people to run at grassroots running level. So there is two perceptions actually. There's one perception that says Black people don't run, in terms of when you go out and you see people running on the streets, or running groups or running clubs, you don't often see Black people in amongst that kind of those groupings, or the Black people do run and completely dominate sports because look at Usain Bolt and look at Dina Asher-Smith and look at Kipchoge, and at the elite level there's loads of representation, and so there isn't a problem in running. And our thing was, well, the only time you talk about Black people in running, particularly long distance, is when you're talking about those elite runners. And if you pick up a copy of Runner's World magazine, for example, we're rarely seen at that level. Or if you go to your local park run, you may see people running, but you may not see very many people who look like you if you're a Black or brown person. So we founded Emancipated Run Crew, myself, my sister Denise, and our running brother Trojan Gordon. We're actually neighbours. We live down the road from each other. We've known each other for many, many years, meeting at our local train station. But my sister was the first kind of run in the group, and she encouraged Trojan to run. She also encouraged me to run. And so over the years, we kind of went our different running ways. And I can talk a bit more about my own specific running journey. But we kind of came together because we felt quite similar. We had quite similar experiences. So we would go to runs, either throughout the UK, or Dee and I, my sister, used to go and run at races abroad. And we were just like, we just aren't seeing enough people, and we really need to do something to encourage Black and brown people to get out and get active and show that runners come in all different shapes and sizes, because there's also a perception that a runner looks a particular way. So I am like a curvy black woman with like thighs and hips, and when I first started running, I didn't want to go out and be seen because I didn't feel like I looked like a lean life, sprinter or long distance runner. And so part of our thing was to show that there are different types of runners as well. So long story short, Trojan had a WhatsApp group that he formed around 2014 for a small group of runners that he encouraged to go and do, I think it was the Cardiff half marathon, and roll on a few years. Dee and I were doing, we launched an Instagram page called We Run, We Eat, which journaled our running kind of journeys around the world and eating, because we love to eat. That's why I run. And we were kind of talking about what we could do, and the WhatsApp group kind of became the springboard for us kind of going out and encouraging people that we saw around like our local park run to join. And we kind of got this WhatsApp group to encourage people. And then in 2019 it had grown, from less than 10 people to about, 20 people was on this WhatsApp group. And we'd been trying to come up with names for the WhatsApp group that kind of would give us an identity. And I had this divine inspiration, I call it, of Emancipated Run Crew. And the kind of idea around that was that we were all descendants of people who had been formerly enslaved people or colonized people or people who were marginalized from society, but we kind of were free to run and to be ourselves. And one of the things that's very important in the group is that everyone's free to run their own race. So run free is our mantra. So don't try to be anyone else when you're running. Whether you're running a 7-minute mile or a 4-minute mile, you should run free within yourself and as your own expression of what a runner is. And as soon as I spoke to Dee and I spoke to Treasure and said, this is what I think we should call the group. And they were both like, oh my gosh, this is it. And I changed the name, and I didn't actually say anything in the WhatsApp group. And then this energy just, it birthed this energy within the WhatsApp group. And it just, from then there was just like a massive shift. And it's amazing what kind of having an identity and a sense of purpose does for a group, because it just from there just took off. And then obviously 2020 happened, and going into COVID, being a WhatsApp kind of focus group, a virtual group, really helped in terms of people really felt like they weren't alone and going through that whole lockdown experience. A lot of people, we've got people who are married, people who are single, people who are older, people who are younger. And so it gave that sense of, I'm not alone, I've got my people, I'm checking in every day, and giving that sense of purpose and community. And also it's coincided with kind of the Black Lives Matter summer, and really kind of bringing forward some of the issues that we as Black and brown people experience kind of, in the UK, in the States, in places where we are minoritized. And so it was really kind of important for us to kind of have a voice and to represent people who, or give a voice to people who often aren't kind of shown or featured in the mainstream. And so that's part of what we do as well, and kind of really we're really kind of working to change the face of running for the better, because I think it's all about enriching this great sport that we all love and encouraging as many people to feel that they can participate and get something amazing out of it too. I have gone on for about 5 hours, I feel.
I'm delighted that you're going on for 5 minutes. The less of my voice and the more of yours, the more successful we've been today. People must be sick hearing me by now. So there's so many things I want to get into on that, because there's bits that are completely tally with my own experience in terms of when we started this podcast. I'm saying we because I've got quite a broad community behind me now. Didn't really know what it was going to be, except that probably searching for a bit of that identity and community, because for whatever reason it's very easy to find yourself on the outside looking in at that and feeling like everybody else is having that great time for completely different reasons to those which you're outlining there. So that's, I think, what probably this is becoming, about widening access and breaking down barriers. This is for the everyday runner, this podcast. I say that and then I end up with like an elite runner on there, but trying to talk to them about what before they were or after they were an elite runner. So there's a lot to get into there. That perfect storm of Black Lives Matter but you said there, the energy that comes from when people find an identity, a reason beyond just the running, because the running itself is barely enough to just sustain. Before I start picking away at some of that, Nina, can I bring you in? Can you tell me when you became a member, how you found out about it, and what that sort of initial journey has been like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because it kind of coincides with that whole Black Lives Matter summer. So when I first started running, I didn't really think too much about groups or anything like that. And I know a few people had mentioned clubs that I could join, but like I think both of you said, I never really felt like a proper runner to join these kind of elite groups or these very fast groups. But yeah, around that time, I remember there being quite a lot of focus on like diversity and inclusion. And I think it was another YouTube channel which did a video about Emancipated Run Crew. And when I saw it, I was like, I never even knew any of this existed. And I literally went straight to their Instagram and I was just like, I just sent a message. I was just like, wow, it's amazing. I saw this video. How do I join? And I think it was Dee that responded to me. And she was just like, yeah, of course you can join. We're going to add you to the WhatsApp group. And again, because it was at the time of the lockdown and I was actually injured when I joined ERC. So I was kind of looking for a little bit more motivation and advice and what I could do and how I could still kind of keep motivated even though I was injured. So Dee joined me to the WhatsApp group, and our WhatsApp group at first, it moves about 100 miles per hour. So many messages, so many pictures. But when she joined me to the group, she kind of put a little bit of a bio about myself in there, and loads of people were just saying welcome and really nice things. And these are people that hadn't even met me before. They don't know me. So it felt like a family just from the start. And yeah, I've been a member ever since. And it's just been growing and growing. And it's been great to meet so many different people. Obviously, when we were able to meet up outside of lockdown, that was great because I'd spoken to these people and cheered them on in the WhatsApp group. I'd never actually seen them face to face. So it's great that we're kind of back in person now and can do lots of meetups. And yeah, no, it's been really good. And the group is still growing quite a lot. I guess my role in the group is that I look after the Instagram page for ERC. So mainly doing a lot of the content and stuff like that and posting.
Is there a geographical sense of the membership? Obviously, something like that started as local as your train station, and then starts to. Yeah. Are you finding it starting to grow tentacles?
Yeah, I mean, we've got members in the States, in Ghana, in all across the UK, all across London. So it's a crazy mix of people from all over, and that's what we kind of love about it, is that people feel plugged in, even though we've got a member who joined the end of last year who's coming over to run the London Marathon. None of us have met her before. She's a she will be embraced as much as someone who we recruited from our local park run. And that's what we love about it, is that we're able to show that when you have a family, it's not about where you are, it's about where your heart is and where your passions lie. And that's the magic of it, because people feel as if that even if they're running and they're 5 hours ahead or 2 hours behind, we're all still with them. We're still that community behind them. So that's what is so special about what we're doing and what we've created.
So the train station group has moved off the train line just via Ghana in America.
Exactly.
But I think that's important to point out. This is began with being a virtual space, and there is obviously the opportunity for your in-person events and meetups, but anyone can explore that space irrespective of where they are geographically. I just wanted to make sure that was people were aware of that. So as I said to you, I became aware of the work of ERC, I think just in and around the same time as the National Running Show. So this is moving on to episode 5 for me bi-weekly. And I'd spoken to Pete Cooper. Quite early in the journey by a series of chaotic events. He used to work with my sister, who lives in Surrey. So I knew nothing of Pete's story, but she said to me, he has a really interesting story. Have a look into it and I'll see if I can put you in touch. But I just brass necked it and sent him a DM anyway. Thought I'll shoot my shot. Found out so much more, and I'm recording with him. So I'm interviewing him next week from Tokyo while he's in Tokyo to get his 6-star finisher medal.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really looking forward to it. But what I've learned of Cooper running and the thread, I suppose, a bit that appeals to me beyond the app is that social justice thread and the widening access bit and his partnerships. So after I started following, I'm starting to follow a breadcrumb of that there's something here connecting these organisations, and that's where I found out about the work of ERC. So can you maybe fill me in on just what your role was, what your relationship is with Pete, and also how that National Running Show went in Birmingham?
Oh, we love the National Running Show and we love Pete Cooper. We actually met Pete in the 2022 National Running Show. I think it was it because we did Birmingham and we did the Running Show South last year, and I think it was the Birmingham show that we met Pete, and we just had a real connection with him. He was walking around in a banana, I think, as you do, and we just were like, this guy is as crazy as we are. We really like him, and we have been meaning to get around a table with Pete since last January. Pete's come to our local park run. I've cheered him on in Dulwich because, you know, he's an avid runner and he's just an all-round good guy. So we've been talking to him, and we haven't actually worked with Cooper properly yet, but we're just talking about how we can work together, because his ethos and our ethos, you know, he completely gets what we're doing, and we absolutely love what, you know, Cooper is doing in the running app. Is going from strength to strength, because when we met him it had only just launched, and so when we saw him at the running show in January, it was just like a year on, although we'd seen him in between, just seeing where Cooper have grown to and all the things that they're doing and the kind of collaborations that they've been involved with. It's just been amazing to see what they've done in a year. And Pete is just, you know, he understands the power of running, and I think in terms of the mental benefits, the mental health benefits, and what it can give you, that space that it gives you, and so he kind of just speaks our language, really. In terms of the National Running Show, though, what we kind of got involved with the National Running Show after we went for the very first time in, I think it was during 2021, actually. We went to the Farnborough one, and I had never been to the running show, and I don't think any of our group members had ever been to the running show. And it was sometimes it feels like there are certain things that you just don't know about unless you're plugged into certain things. So if you're not in a running club, like a, you know, kind of England Athletics affiliated club, traditional running club, you just don't hear about things, or you don't know about things. And we went to the running show, and we were quite shocked by how undiverse it was. Shocked but not shocked. So we were like, this really, there's some work here to be done. And we know Black Girls Do Run UK, which is a group that's also based in London, and we know the founder and the members quite well, and they were down there. And we were just like, if they weren't here, there would be absolutely no kind of representation, really, from any kind of diverse organization, and whatever that means. And so we were very determined to kind of get a stand there and really encourage people to come out and see, because there's so much that you can see. There's brands there, there's talks there, there's all kinds of things that you can learn. And if you don't know that this is open and accessible to you, then you just don't have those opportunities. And so we're very much about, this is a space that you may feel that you can't go into, but actually you can. And if we go in there first and show you it's okay, this can be done, this is a space for you, then it encourages more people into that space, and they feel like, actually, yeah, I can be in this space and it's okay. And there are, things that I didn't realize were open to me, but actually they are. So, with the running show, we really feel like we've kind of, a lot of our members have come to Birmingham, or when it was in Farnborough, where Nina's from, actually. So it was really nice to go down there and see where she's from. But so our runners now know about it, and we kind of make a real splash on Instagram. And we've had runners from Birmingham, when we've been to the National Running Show in Birmingham, come down and say, we really love ERC, we've seen what you do, we really appreciate the fact that you've come to Birmingham and you've come where we are to kind of encourage us, even though most of you, a lot of our founders are based in London. We do believe in going out and kind of making sure that the community isn't necessarily where we are. We will go to the community and kind of be there. So yeah, that's but we love the National Running Show, but there is work that kind of needs to be done in kind of looking at, does it fully represent the full spectrum of runners that it needs to?
Yeah. And my day-to-day work is I work in education, and predominantly with the poverty related attainment gap. So the 20% poorest population in Scotland are massively underperform in terms of exam results, but also in terms of access to further education, higher education. And that's a space I've also been thinking about this, even within the running scene here, where where there is probably far less diversity even in the population where I live and where I'm from. You don't even see runners from those sort of poorer postcodes at parkrun, and it's something I've become more and more aware of through this process of looking around. And it's very white, very middle class, and it's the class. I suppose I noticed the class more than the race because I've never looked before for that. And then you line something like this up, and I'm looking around. I was in Govan in Glasgow, which a Govan school may be made up of, at the moment, probably 60% black and brown children. Nobody at parkrun that's not white. The one I was at was just last week. So that's something that my eyes are opening to here. And that was me visiting a parkrun in an area that I'm not from, whereas where I live is really probably doesn't have that same level of diversity even in the population. So I'm drawing all these parallels, and it gets you firing as to how do you use your voice and your platform to kick that door down.
Because the thing is that is, we've had so many conversations at National Running Show where people come up to our stand and they're like, well, why do you, there's lots of diversity in my park run's got, it's got women, it's got men, and there are people who are thin and there are people who are fat, and they're like, okay, but how many people who don't look like you are there? Like, as in, do you see any brown people or black people there? Oh, well, no, not really. But again, you don't think about it. And that whole thing about class. So I grew up on a council estate, where things were hard, things were tough growing up. And you talk about running and everyone's like, oh, running's free, like anyone can access it, that's why it's easy. And it's like, actually, you need a pair of trainers that are probably going to cost you about £150 if you get a decent pair. You need decent shorts. As a woman, you need a good sports bra, believe me. You need money to enter races because races are not free. Where in that does running look free to you? So there are so many different barriers that you kind of don't even think about. Now I, can afford to enter to races, but looking at my 15-year-old self, or even 20-year-old self and I didn't run back then because, quite frankly, if I had an interest, which I didn't at the time, I wouldn't have been able to afford to.
No. There's a difference between being free, i.e. you can step out your door and run, and actually feeling like you belong on a race line, or even towards the front of a park run. You might be fast enough, but look around you. It's not,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
as you said, it's people's watches are worth more than, you know, more than your
exactly.
trainers, more, and then that's worth more than it's
Yeah.
ongoing. Nina, can I ask you about at the point when you reached out, Black Lives Matter, that prominent movement at that time, and then such as the nature of the world, something else becomes the story, and that starts to fade from the consciousness and the forefront of people's mind. But at that point, when you're feeling that energy, did you face barriers in your running? Did you feel like there was barriers?
Yeah, I definitely did. I think it's a little bit similar to what you were saying. You turn up to, because I used to do park run a lot before the lockdown. That was kind of like my only running related thing before I started entering races and stuff like that. And you show up to your local park run, and again, you're pretty much the only Black person there. It doesn't really feel like you belong. Again, like what we were saying, everyone else is wearing stuff that's worth more than your whole entire outfit. You just feel like you don't belong there. And I think it's hard, because I was even talking to somebody the other day about these track sessions which I've been going to. So I've only been going to this track session for about a year, or just less than a year now. But the first time I went to this track session, I felt so, and I'd been running for a few years at this point, I still felt so out of place. You turn up there, everyone's kind of like white, middle-aged, super speedy, wearing the latest gear. You just feel really out of place. But it was only me going there and just kind of being able to represent myself, and then reaching out to my other friends and telling them, oh, you should come to this track session. Now that track session looks completely different to when I first started going to it. Now that you've got diverse people, you've got people that are slower, people that are faster, people that look different. You've got so many different types of people there. So I think it's really important to have groups like ERC and to bring people along to events, because even within our direct group, we always share different events, and we'll try and get people to come along to track sessions, because when you start seeing people that look like you, it makes you feel like, oh, I do actually belong. This is a place for me to go.
Yeah. Representation's so important. It's all fine and well being told you're welcome. It's not the same as seeing people that are like you. And actually, that's something where I think the barriers to running crossover, and the runner not feeling like a runner. Jules, you touched on the body shape and I'm not fast enough. Nina, I felt the exact same about track session. I think I've been to the track twice before I joined the running club, because I stood there and I felt like a fish up a tree. I just, like all these people together. And the barrier for me was not necessarily speed. I knew I was relatively quick. It was, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm standing there just, what will I do? Will I just run as fast as I can for 5K? I'm thinking I could do that out my front door. Why am I at the track to do this? And it's been taking the leap and joining a running club. And Joe's seen all those people as well. It's different speeds. So we've got like 4 groups within our running group for a speed session now, where anybody can turn up, and I still can't talk my wife into going because she said I'm too slow, even though I can tell her what the paces are. So there's some of that is just an inbuilt thing about runner versus non-runner in your head. And then again, you've got the next bit about, well, where are the other people that look like me at this? And that's something I want to ask you about here, Jules, is this is at organisational level, I'm thinking, rather than individual level. What do organisations like Parkrun, race providers, or people putting on races, what can they do to make these spaces more inclusive? Because I don't think telling people they're welcome is enough. So how do they go about being proactive?
No, I think it's about reaching out. I think organisations, we had in 2019, when we just kind of formalised as ERC, we entered into a kind of relationship with London Marathon Events, because their community manager, an amazing guy called Hamid, who we absolutely adore, he saw, actually, it was We Run We Eat, me and my sister's Instagram, that he kind of reached out via, and they were looking at how they can improve, how the big half was the race that he was looking at could more accurately reflect London and wanting to make it the most diverse race in London, or rather the race in London which most look like London and the areas that the race runs through, because you look at a lot of these races that run through areas in London and it looks nothing like the London that you see. And by that act of reaching out to us, we have kind of really encouraged so many different race runners within our family to race the big half, but also we kind of gave names of other groups that they could contact and reach out to and encouraged to sign up for the races. So I think a lot of it is to do with, okay, you know, Parkrun may usually utilize local running clubs to organize park runs, but is there anything else that they can be doing? So are there any other running organizations that exist within their area that they can potentially reach out to say, look, we'd really like you to, you know, come down to Park Run, or encourage your runners, if you've got any runners locally, to come down to Park Run, because the onus has been on us to kind of feel that we can lean into that space, when in fact they also have a duty to kind of look at how they are encouraging people to participate. So we, for example, have really taken over, like the South London contingent of ERC have taken over our local, not taken over, but we've really established our home in our local park run, which is South Norwood Country Park. And it's amazing. Every Saturday we rock up, we race, we volunteer, we make sure that we know the kind of race director and the organizers. And so we've really embedded ourselves so they all know Emancipated Run Crew down there. We've done, you know, we volunteered for Black History Month. We took over, you know, the whole thing, volunteered, that, you know, all the volunteers were from ERC. And we're replicating that in West London, in Osterley Park, and kind of rolling that out so that there is an ERC presence in various park runs. That's our ambition across the country. But have we had a conversation with the top management with Park Run? No. You know, we don't have that connection. We have reached out and leaned into our local organisations, but there has to be a kind of reciprocal response to that, or a reaching out from organisations. Because if you want to change something, you will actively look at, what is it that I need to do to change it? And I don't know how many organizations, how many race organizations are actually doing that, even though they may, you know, take photos or show examples of diversity by their marketing, but how much is that embedded into what they're actually doing and who they're actually speaking to and how they're taking forward, making sure that not only are people seen to be represented, but actually how included are they in what your race is and what you're doing as an organization.
Yeah, this is not about taking a photograph of the one black and brown runner doing your park run. It's much more systemic than that. Exactly. I noted with interest actually the new board of trustees that were appointed at Park Run recently, and I had a read at their new, I think it's maybe a 3-year strategic plan, and this is all on there in black and white. It's amongst our targets of next steps in terms of growing Park Run and making it more inclusive. So it will be interesting to see if actions follow words and make it be on the page, because you can't kick all the doors down on your own. In any fight for finding your footing, you can't do that on your own. It takes something meeting you in the middle.
Exactly.
And then can I maybe shine a light on the other side of things, where we're maybe seeing more creaks in the door for organisations like ERC then? And I think both of you were involved in these events. I saw that you were invited to On Running's store opening in London, and also to the ASICS launch. So positive signs, is that green shoots then that organisations are, or is that you bringing that to the party again?
Well, it's always a bit of both, isn't it? I mean, we have a really good relationship with a guy called Andre Coggins, who works with On, and he was amazing at reaching out to lots of different organisations, running crews, and inviting them down to that launch, which, you know, it just was a celebration of running and runners of all colours, all creeds, all sizes, all different abilities. And so that's where you can see kind of community in action, like, you know, that really hand in hand, brands understanding what they want to be seen as and who they want to appeal to, and recognizing that it's not just, there's not just one type of person, there's money to be made across different communities, so let's, you know, let's showcase and celebrate them and invite them in. And that was absolutely brilliant. Everyone who went down from ERC, they came, like the pictures in the WhatsApp was just popping. Nina did the most amazing reel. I wasn't able to go because we suffered a family bereavement recently, so because couldn't go to that, but it just looked incredible. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the celebration of running and like everyone feeling like they have a space in it and they are appreciated and seen and like celebrated. So that was an amazing night. I think everyone came out like, yeah, on is the brand, like really loving it. And they've got community space that they are kind of opening up to running organizations and crews. So that's just how you really embed yourself in and understand where running is now, that it is, you know, it is something that people really want to get involved in if you just open your arms and like welcome them in. And then ASICS, again, they reached out to us, which was amazing, but we'd already as a crew because like, you know, there's so many people in the crew who are great at like, oh, this is happening, let's go down. As Nina said, you know, we're kind of now we're back in the real world. It's great to have all of these opportunities where, you know, we can assemble and meet up as a crew. And so we did that ASICS launch, which was great. I mean, I think again, you know, there was a kind of moment as a runner of more than 20 years, I can still walk into a room and feel like I'm not a runner, because the vibe that you can get sometimes when you walk into a room isn't the open arm one. It's the, if you don't know what's going on, then you don't know what's going on.
Nina, so social media, the role of it is obviously a huge source of reaching out in this, and you're bringing like that carnival type atmosphere to these reels. I'm quite impressed with your handiwork on that, as somebody who is absolutely 41 and feels it the minute I pick up and no idea what's going on. My kids are better at this than I am, but at these types of events, ERC must be giving you that sense of inclusion there, because you're so unlikely to be at that as just an individual runner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. And I think before, like I said, before I started joining kind of running groups or anything like that, all I really knew was the Saturday park run, and that was pretty much it. So being a part of ERC, it's kind of opened the door to so many different events, even races. I wasn't doing them before, but they'd send information about, do you want to do this race? Do you want to do that? Or we've got this great event, or check this one out. So it's really, really good opportunities to go and see these events, because you do meet some people there who have just individually come and they're a bit kind of lost, but they always seem to find our group or ERC, and we kind of take them in, always talk to them, make them feel really welcomed. And I think it's a good opportunity to let people know more about what we do, and all that kind of stuff. And it's really good to have a lot of representation there, because the On Running event was absolutely amazing.
It looked just so good.
Honestly, it was amazing. It was just so diverse and it was just so inclusive. I mean, that was one running event that I'd been to that they just got it completely right, because even you didn't have to do a run, you could have done a walk instead. Everyone was just having a good time. There was music, there was different people there from different crews, all running together, all chatting. It was really, really well set up, and it was really an event for communities and for the running communities, and it did bring everyone together that night. So yeah, it was really good. And then in terms of, I guess, the social media, like you said, social media is so important because you can just reach out to absolutely anybody, and it's how people find you. It's how I found ERC through their Instagram page. So it's always important to make sure that we're getting out content, making sure that we're showing up at these events, we're well represented. People know if they're coming to events, they'll probably be likely to see somebody from ERC there. And yeah, it's just really great because people can reach out to us from all over the world and ask about ERC, and they can be interested in what we're doing and what we're up to and support us that way.
Yeah, well, I'll be linking all the socials on the episode description and make a point of pushing them out on the Press Play and Run channel as well. It is really good to see some brands starting to not only catch on but catch fire with this type of thing, and you can actually start to see where brands do understand the space, or people within the brands understand the space versus ticking a box of inclusion and diversity, and I mean that in the widest sense, because I look at like Brooks Run Happy Team and I see diversity. Like there is an absolute variety of runners, and you even look at their Instagram, it's people with 200 followers can be a Brooks Happy runner through to your more influencer type 40,000, which can feel alien to an everyday runner. Then you've got you've got all the religions, all the creeds, all the colours. But what sometimes a source of frustration is you don't hear them speaking. It's all photographed opportunity. I want to hear their story. I want to hear more about why they do what they do, why they were selected, and their voices are not always coming through. And that's people that are local to me in Scotland. I want to know how you got involved in that, but that doesn't always give that platform.
Yeah, and that's really important. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Dee and I, my sister Pat, started our podcast, the Startline podcast, because we recognize that there are stories that just aren't being told. And, you know, we took our microphone up to the National Running Show and captured some of the voices up there, a lot of voices from our ERC community, but also other people who we caught up there. And it's really powerful to hear these stories of everyday, ordinary runners who sometimes don't even feel like they are runners, but are in doing what they're doing, inspiring so many people because they're doing things that they didn't think they could do. Like, you know, we've got one of our runners, Stephen, he joined us last year. We dragged him kicking and screaming into the WhatsApp group when we met him in our local park run in South Norwood. And he was at that time doing, like Nina at the beginning, like one park run a week. And within less than a year, so last October, he'd been with us probably just under a year, he did a marathon. So he went from 5K to running a marathon in less than a year. Now, I've been running 20 years. I've never done a marathon. Like, and now I kind of like people, like I kind of feel like people aren't taking me seriously as a runner because I like doing half marathons and 10Ks and I haven't done a marathon. But I'm here to represent the runners who don't feel that pressure. Like, do you, boo. But, you know, that whole kind of sense of empowerment that comes from running, that you can, 1 minute you feel like you can't even run for the bus, and then the next minute you're doing a marathon, is so powerful to so many other aspects in your life. And, you know, a lot of us use the Nike training app, and there's like Coach Bennett on there, and he often says, you know, it's about running. It's also not about running.
Is this the guided runs?
Yes.
Yeah, I see them popping up in my feed, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, you should try them. They're really good. But, you know, some of Coach Bennett's you know, his sayings just kind of resonate with life, because it is, you know, running is about running, but it's also not about running. It's about, you know, the things in your life that you feel that you can't do, whether it's a work problem or a relationship problem or a family problem where you feel you can't do it. But actually, when you get up in the morning and you think, I can't do that run, and then you go out and you do it and you come back, you kind of feel able to tackle other problems in your life, or, you know, you feel that you've given yourself that mental space to kind of disconnect from that problem, give yourself that space to just breathe. I mean, I'm like, whenever I go running, I'm just trying to stay alive. So any other stress in my life kind of goes secondary, because I'm literally trying to stay alive. and that's what it does. It's kind of appreciating all the different levels that running gives you.
I love the lies you're telling yourself about the marathon. I'm that guy as well. 2017 I started and I've still never run a marathon, but I'm changing it at the end of May. I'm doing my first one at the end of May. So
Yes!
I'm in training right now.
Which one are you doing, Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm doing Edinburgh. So
that's lovely.
I wanted to do Manchester, but I couldn't make the logistics work. My wife's away on holiday and is only back that day. But there's a huge crowd of people I've now come to know running Edinburgh. So I'm looking forward to a bit of trepidation. But Nina, I was looking back through your Insta as well, and I saw you've done London previously.
Yeah, so I did it this year, last year, just gone. That was my first marathon, and again, it was just really amazing and such a good opportunity, because I would have never been able to do it without the support of everyone from ERC, because I only had about 7 weeks.
I read that. Insane.
Yeah, so it was a really, really quick turnaround. But again, we all got added to a WhatsApp group that was just for the London marathoners that were in ERC. And again, people that had done marathons were giving us lots of advice. One of the members from the group, Humphrey, who's paced me for a lot of PBs actually, he told me to speak to one of his friends who'd done loads and loads of marathons, and she was able to give me really, really good bespoke advice as well. She was telling me what sorts of workouts I should be doing, what I should be eating, what I should be carrying, what kind of paces I should be hitting, roughly what time she thought I could do it in. And again, it's just that kind of stuff which, when you're by yourself, you don't get any of this information, but it's only kind of being part of a group and speaking to people and listening to their different experiences was absolutely amazing. And then, this year I've got in April, I've got Paris Marathon, and then I've got 2 ultras. So I guess it's kind of wrapped into 3 marathons this year, but should be good fun.
Jules, I'm wondering when the peer pressure is going to get to you. You've lasted 20 years. How much longer can you hold it off?
I'm pretty good. No,
that's a sterling effort.
I don't know, Ryan. I'm not ready to make any announcements here, but I'll keep you posted.
I will make one here because I've not put this out there yet, but Nina, you've just said it. So I have really fought tooth and nail not to run a marathon. And now I'm doing it. I've just bloody signed up for an ultra as well, haven't I?
Oh, good.
In August, I am doing the Devil of the Highlands, which is the West Highland Way up in the north of Scotland, up and over mountains, and I've been peer pressured.
I was going to say that sounds pretty hilly, Ryan.
It's like jumping off the deep end when you can't really swim and just picking the highest height you can jump from. So this is kind of what I do. I say yes, then I panic, then I regret, and then I just try and do it. But I've got so many.
And then you say, when can I do it again?
Well, but this is because of the people I'm around now and the guidance, and because I trained for that first one myself, like you're saying, Nina, that first marathon, without a clue what I was doing, and I hated the long runs so much. They lived in my head all week, and I hated having to slow down as much as you should. But now I have embraced running with people. I've found a bit of a community there. And the difference, I ran, I think I had a 13 miler yesterday with a friend, looked at the watch twice, just running along, bumbling along, chatting, hit the pace. Those runs were killing me the last time round just because I was on my own and in my head. So there is something about community, and that's what I would urge anybody. So if it's ERC, if it's your own local running crew, if it's your local running club, whom I must say, mine are fantastic, and find your connection, even if it's online, because it makes such a difference to the run.
It does. I'm always one for find your tribe. And I think, there is something about being part of a community that pushes you further than you will push yourself. So it's like the difference between doing a workout at home versus doing a workout in a class where you're trying to keep up with people, or the teacher is going to tell you about your posture or tell you to lift things. You can get so far by yourself, and it's great to get started, but sometimes you do need that community to either help you with those long runs. We try to kind of make sure that everyone connects, and people are making their own connections within our group, which is great. But having that kind of advice, that network of people who can tell you, try this, this is what helped me. Or if you're not sure and you've got someone that you can actually go to for that advice, it makes so much difference to your development and growth as a runner.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Couldn't agree more. It's been a recurring theme with every guest. It's the people that have gone on to do more than they ever thought they could all found a person or a group that brought something out in them they didn't know was there, because you rarely find it on your own. You do find your limits, and it's so hard to run an interval session on your own. Like, you just to do those extra 1 or 2 reps. But when you're on the track or you're with the group, even the pride on its own gets you around a couple.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be. It's like when you're at that park run. Like I was at one. We do our regular Saturdays, and there was a guy that I could hear his footsteps behind me. I was like, no, you're not going to be behind. All of a sudden, like you find that sprint because that person, you're not going to let them over. So it's those things, and I think often we are full of very self-limiting thoughts. So you believe. I was saying to Kamara on Saturday, one of our crew members who's doing the marathon as well, and he was saying that he found 5K really hard. And I was like, when you have a set of miles in your head that today I'm going to do 5K, for me, that's all I can do. Like if I know today I'm going to do 5K, I'm literally doing 5K, and I cannot do not 1 kilometer over 5K.
Yep.
But if tomorrow I can do 10K, I'm going to do 10 miles, I will do that 10 miles, and it will feel exactly the same as the 5K. And then I'll do 1 mile the day after, and it will feel the same as the 10 miles, because in my head, that's all I can do. So, but when you're running with someone else or in another group, they can say, you can do another mile, Jules.
Yeah.
Like you can do, I can see you're still okay. You're not like falling over. You've got enough, and you will find that, but you sometimes can't find that for yourself.
It's so true. When you're running the 10K, the self-loathing doesn't begin until 7K. Yet when you're running 5, it comes at 3. It's all here. It's all in the head.
It's so much of it is mental. So much of it.
So can I ask you, Jules, then what's your sort of personal running goals this year?
Right. So I've been injured for a long time with an Achilles problem. And since 2019, actually, I kind of got injured 2020, sorry, at the big half. The last big race before lockdown, and I have been trying to find my 2019 body since then. So 2023's goals is about finding my 2019 body. So I need to I want to do 2 half marathons this year. I did not do 2 half marathons last year, and I want to do, because I've never done a sub 2:15 half marathon. So that is my goal, is to do a sub 2:15 half marathon this year. And we're going to Atlanta in October.
I saw that on the website.
Yes, to run the race, which is a amazing, biggest long distance race organised by a Black community of runners. And so there's about 16 of us signed up to go over for that.
So where in Atlanta?
It's downtown Atlanta, actually.
So nice. I love it there.
So it should be amazing. The only thing is that we're going to have to kind of acclimatize ourselves to, because I think we'll get in on Thursday and the race is on Sunday. So hopefully the jet lag will have subsided by then, and we won't have partied too hard on the actually the race is on Saturday, so hopefully we won't party too hard on Friday night, but we will have Saturday night to party.
Don't waste it. Don't waste it on Friday.
Exactly. So I'm going to hold on. But I think there's also a bit of a hill at the end of the race, which we haven't told. Well, I'm telling everyone now. People who signed up, if you're coming, there's going to be a hill at the end. So
get your hill sessions in.
Yeah, get your hill sessions in. But I'm not sure I'm going to make my time. But I'm going to try. So if I don't, then I'll have a party to kind of drown my sorrows in afterwards.
And you're in a great place to party. It's so good. And speaking of being drunk and wasting it, Nina, would you like to talk us through? I'll be linking to Nina's social media, but it's well worth a follow for everyone to see that Nina was skiing last week, and it's been an interesting week of stories. So you managed to win a race, which I'll let you tell them about, but you've also managed to hamper another race. So let's go. Talk us through it.
Yeah, exactly. So, me and my friends went to Austria for a skiing and snowboarding holiday, and it was actually a few of my friends that I made at track, so they're kind of running friends. And one night, after far too many shots of limoncello and Captain Morgan, we decided to do a sobriety test. So first we had to kind of put our thumb on our nose and then our little finger on our knee and balance for, I think it was about 30 seconds. We both managed to pass the test after all the alcohol, which was pretty good. And then I decided that I should pick a test which I thought I could win pretty much. So we decided to do 400 meters to the local supermarket and back. This was, it was very late at night. I was a little bit wobbly at the start line, but managed to do the run. So I ended up coming back quickly before the other guy that I was running against. But then we had to do 10 push-ups. So I was a little bit slower on the push-ups, but because I made up the speed in the running, I managed to complete it before him. So that was a good victory. And then, a couple of days later, snowboarding on one of the blue slopes on the mountain. And it was all going very well, actually. I was turning, I was linking. I thought, it's all making sense now. I'm going to give up my day job and be a professional snowboarder. And then before I knew what was happening, I just caught my edge of my snowboard, fell backwards, put my hand out, rookie mistake to break my fall, and landed on my wrist just completely wrong. My friend, luckily, was not too far behind me, so he came running over. And I think he would say that was like the first time in my life that I've actually been speechless and just been not able to actually say any words. It was really, really painful, but it was all good because he managed to bandage me up because he knew first aid. So put my arm in a sling, held my snowboard, and the most painful part is that we had to walk all the way down the slope after everyone was like kind of flying past us. Even like 6-year-old kids that were doing their skiing lessons were flying past us. So we had to walk all the way down, and then we found a bar and had a beer, and that was the best beer I'd ever tasted in my life after all that traumatic experience. But I've got a cast on at the moment, which should stay on for a week, and then I get another x-ray, and then I think I'll be able to see where I go from there. But for now, it's looking like I'm just going to stick to the bike before Paris Marathon, but it should be off either way. It should be off in time for that, so it should be all good to run it.
Good. Nothing like taking a chance with some skiing before a marathon.
I know. It's just asking for trouble, isn't it? But that's just my style, I guess.
Never has the phrase "ready, set, go" been more ironic as you stumbled on set. I was watching it and it just saw you wobble to the side. I thought, that's not going to end well. I didn't know it would be 2 days later, but you could see it was never going to end well.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying to my friend that when I was running, I had to breathe manually because I was just like, I couldn't even remember how to breathe, and I thought I was gonna throw up because of the alcohol. But surprisingly, good run, good result.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious!
Unbelievable. I'm just thinking of how serious some people take the marathon training to go snowboarding in the middle of it. They would look at you like you had two heads.
Exactly. This is the Nina marathon training plan, which includes snowboarding and shots of alcohol and running and sprints.
So I've got two more things to do. One question I want to ask, because this podcast is predominantly set for everyday runners. So we're not a brand, we're not an organisation. What is the sort of practical steps an everyday runner can take in their own running space to help make it more inclusive beyond the obvious, which is speak to people? But is there anything people can do in their space to help? And this is whether you're black, brown, whether you're poor, whether you're a different body shape. What steps can everyday runners take to help a group like ERC in getting the mission out?
I would think that it is about talking amongst your peers. So, I think a lot of conversation happens between, say, ERC and someone else, but we can only go so far in terms of opening up those routes. It's really about, are people talking to each other? Do you turn around to your, friends at your running club or your local park run and say, actually, hey, there aren't many X here, or gosh, do you know anyone who you think would be, what are you doing? What conversations are you having amongst yourselves? That's really important. And I think just Nina mentioned earlier that there are often stragglers that we see who will bring into the fold. And I think often when I've been to runs before ERC, you'll see people huddle together. It's that kind of closed group, open group thing that you're taught if you ever go to a networking seminar. Be open. If you're a group, have an open group, have an open circle. Look around. If there's anyone that looks like they don't have anyone there, ask, welcome them, say something, because that may be the only one chance that they're going to give to that park run or to that race or to that running club. If you don't reach out to them, they may disappear and they may not come back. So look around you and just be more open to welcoming someone in, or looking at whether there are people who haven't been welcomed in, and what can you do to encourage that in your own sphere of influence. It's just small things, no one's asking for a big revolution.
No, it makes sense though. I think I had probably done 40 plus park runs before I ever spoke to anyone else at any length, and it was because it felt like a very hard space to penetrate, because everybody already knows each other, and it's only a short window, isn't it? 10 minutes you turn up for beforehand.
Exactly.
You run your 5k, and depending on your time, half the folk are away home, or
exactly, and they're gone, and you think, oh, I didn't speak to a single person, or no one even spoke to me. And like sometimes you will get, like sometimes we'll post about places feeling unwelcome, and people will kind of say, oh, well, what do you mean, no one should open you and welcome you with open arms? What do you want, a red carpet? And it's not about that. It's not about saying that anyone should have special treatment. It's just that when I run, I like to say hello to people. That's just me, because I know what it feels like if no one does say hello to me. So I try not to be that person. So if I walk into a race and I see someone, like even when we went to Lisbon and we were going to the expo, and we picked up a runner there who's from America, like lovely Doc, I love her. And she was in Lisbon she actually did the London Marathon and then was going back to the States to do via Lisbon, saw that Lisbon was having a marathon change. Anyway, she'd been there for 2 days, didn't speak to anyone, because she had tried to make eye contact and nod to other runners, and just was getting nothing back. And so sometimes you've just got to open your eyes and think, what would I like? Would I like someone to say hi to me? Then just say hi.
Yeah. I think we're all capable of being both ways, depending on what you've got on in your own day. You can do it sometimes unintentionally, like where you feel like quite closed on your own. But I know the reaction we've had to this podcast and the people on it, and I know how the many people have reached out. They are the type of people that are doing that. So I hope by hearing this, they feel just maybe that one other thing to think about or speak about amongst themselves. I know they will. I know what the community's like. It's really, really good. But we need to keep opening the doors. And as you said, what is it, X? Do we have X here? No matter what X is. So in your area, no matter what X is, it's not about going out and hunting for people. Like, you sound like you're on a recruiting mission every time you're out, but it's not,
I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, we're always like, ELC's not a cult, people. It's not a cult.
You're now a member.
We're a community, exactly. But I think it's that Dee, Trojan, and I particularly, we know that a lot of people who've come into ERC will experience races and running in a completely different way to the way that we did, and we're so happy about that. So for us, we're always on that mission, which is not to say everyone is, but we're always kind of looking at, is everyone okay? Is there anyone that's looking like they're a little bit unsure? And if you want to be, as you say, sometimes you're not in the mood, like you're just not in the mood, and sometimes people don't want that. People just want to go in, do their race, go.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that is absolutely fine. Run your own race. But, you know, you just got to check in to make sure that you okay.
Awareness, just awareness, and
Yeah.
somewhere in the head. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, final call of business for me. I always finish the episode with a quick fire round. So I don't know how I'm going to make this with two people, okay? But here's what we're going to do. We're going to set some rules here. I'm going to ask the question, and then Jules, I'm going to get you to answer first, and Nina, you to answer second each time.
Okay.
It's first responses that come to head. Now, I should have given you a heads up in the last one, but I'm absolutely rubbish and forgot. So we'll see what you say. I'm all happy to just roll with it. So I ask these questions of every guest that comes on. I'm going to begin with you, Jules. Favourite running shoe of all time?
Running shoe?
Yes.
I had this pair of Nike, and I cannot remember what model it is. I had them in 2019, and they were, I call them my magic trainers. That's how I had them in my apps, magic trainers. And it was a pair of shoes that I bought from the Nike outlet store, and I had forgotten my running trainers, my actual running trainers, which was, I think, Brooks. So I had to get a temporary pair, and those were the pair I bought, and they were just absolutely amazing. But I can't remember the model name. Sorry.
I've never had to link to a pair of magic shoes before, but we'll try our best. Nina, favourite running shoe of all time?
Mine is the Hoka. I think it's the Mach 4, just because it's so comfortable and an everyday trainer, and I love Hoka.
Favourite running route?
Ooh. I used to run from my office, where I used to work on Grayson Road, which is in central London, down to the Westminster Bridge and back up along the river, so along embankments, past, you know, all of the wonderful theatres, down to London Bridge, and running along the water. I love running along along waterways, so that route is my favourite route.
Nina?
Mine is probably the one that I did yesterday, so it's a really long one, but it's from where I live, which is sort of West Drayton area, all along the canal up until Paddington. So it's nice because you start off really far out from London, and then you end up in pretty much central London. But it's also nice because you are literally running against the train, because you can get a train for that similar route. But it's a long one, but definitely my favourite, and it's the most varied.
Jules has probably recruited 10 people on that train. Best running related book or podcast you have read or listened to?
Ooh. Well, apart from the Start Line podcast, obviously.
Shameless plug, but we'll include it.
Shameless plug. I love, there's a American pair called the Run Duo, who we met when the Start Line did a expo for the race that we're going to do in October, and they kind of hosted this podcasting panel, and their podcast is amazing. I love them.
Perfect. Nina?
I'd say one of my favourite podcasts, obviously after Jules and Dee's one and your own one.
You're not getting them. Nope.
It would probably be Marcus Brown's. I think it's called A Runner's Life. Again, his podcast is just really, really interesting. He has a real mix of people on there, and they're good kind of lengthy ones. I like about an hour for a podcast.
Glad you said that, because we're running well over that.
Yeah.
Proudest running moment?
I think for me was the first time I did the 10K, which was way back in 2001, when Nike were doing runs around London. And it was the first time I started running, and I did not believe I could run more than 5K. In fact, I didn't think I could run 5K. So running 10 was just mind-blowing to me. And yeah, that's my proudest moment.
Nina?
I'd say my proudest moment was probably last year when I did the Marrakesh half marathon. That one was just an amazing one, because it was my first one abroad, first one in really hot weather, didn't know anybody there, couldn't really speak the same language as anybody there either, but my mum came to support me and she watched me run, which was just absolutely amazing. And I managed to get a PB on a really hard course as well. So yeah, that was definitely my proudest.
That's so exotic compared to the usual answers. Worst race or running experience?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. So my sister and I, we did this race in a place called Jesolo, which is in Italy. It's near Venice. It's a seaside town. Absolutely amazing. Highly recommended. But we did this race, which was a night race, and it was beautiful. Should have been amazing, but I made the mistake of having a heavy pasta lunch. And this pasta sat in my stomach for this entire race. And it was the most horrendous race ever. Like, I was like, this is supposed to be the most wonderful Italian experience. And it was just awful because this pasta was weighing me down. And at the end of the race, we had no idea where we were because we didn't end where we began. And so we had to walk about 7K, half of it up a dark kind of A road to get back to the hotel. So we did not get back to the hotel until probably past midnight, exhausted, still full of pasta, feeling like, I needed to go to the loo. And that was my worst running experience.
For you, Nina?
I'd say my worst one was actually the first big half race that I did. So that one, I barely did any training from it. I just got back off holiday. So all I was doing, like I mentioned before, was drinking and eating. So I was not well prepared at all for it. And I think it got to about 8K and I just stopped and started walking and I thought, can't be bothered with this. And then I thought, hang on a second, I've got quite a long walk ahead of me. Yeah. So I started running again. But yeah, it was just a really tough one to finish. And I think it just goes to show poor preparation really kind of makes or break a race.
No, you're both sounding like a poster for don't try anything new in race day, such as pasta or alcohol.
100%.
So on the other side, when you should be doing this stuff, then what's your ultimate post long run or marathon meal or drink? So what's the refuel meal? What's your dream meal at the end?
Ooh, do you know what? I love a good pizza, and also a cold beer. So when I did the Valencia half marathon, and at the end they give you a bottle of cold beer. And forget water. Don't give me coconut water. Don't give me a banana. Give me a cold bottle of beer.
Yeah.
Love that.
Nina?
I'd say my favourite is actually an ice cold Diet Coke. So always have to have a Diet Coke after a run. It's just so nice having something fizzy. And then something for food. Usually it's like a vegan burger and chips. I feel like you just can't beat a burger and chips after a long run.
You've picked my two favourites, pizzas and burgers all day, as many as you can have, like Popeye. Just keep going. Run with or without music?
Now I run without music. I run to podcasts actually. Podcasts and audiobooks, because I used to run to music religiously, but I found that I try to dance at the same time. So if the music slows down a bit, I'm doing a little slow, then it speeds up, I'm going really fast, and then I'm waiting for my power track, and then the battery runs out, and then my race is ruined. So now it's all about podcasts, slow and steady, immersive. I'm just like trying to listen to what's happening next. And so I love a podcast.
Nina?
I'm definitely with music all the way, which is why I've now switched to open ear headphones so I can actually hear other people talking to me. But yeah, music all the time for me.
Yeah. Best piece of running advice you've ever been given or could give?
Mine is run your own race. Don't look at what other people are doing. Don't think that you have to get to a certain pace because someone else has gotten to a certain pace, or you've been running for a certain amount of time, therefore you should be, where in your head you think you should be. Listen to your body and run your own race.
Love that. Nina?
I'd say pretty much similar. So I think the phrase is comparison is the thief of joy. And I think it's so true. Everyone will always be faster or slower than you. You'll have so much people either side. So just do what makes you happy and run your own race. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. And
I think I might know the answer to this one. Favourite park run?
Wow.
Wouldn't happen to start with South, would it?
Of course. It's got to be, well, actually, not when it's been raining, because it's like a country park. And so the mud is real. So as long as you've got your trail shoes, then yes, South Norwood Country Park.
Nina?
Mine is one that's recently opened up, so it's near where I live. It's Stockley Park Country Park Run. So it's just opened up. I think it was about 2 months ago. So yeah, that's my favourite because it's local.
And finish this sentence. I press play and run because
I love to eat.
Okay, love that as well. Nina?
I press play and run because I want to be free.
Very nice, very nice. And the final thing that I meant to give you a heads up on was that we have a press play and run playlist on Spotify. So each guest that comes on picks the one running track that they would never take out their rotation, or Jules, as you said, your power song. And we add it to the playlist. So I'm going to ask you both for the one track you couldn't do without on your running playlist.
So this is going to be a weird one for me.
They all are.
Maybe it's not.
I've come to realise that they're not what I thought they were going to be. So just crack on.
So my power running track is Aretha Franklin's "How I Got Over," and it's on her Amazing Grace album, which was her biggest selling album. And it's a track that I will rewind it and play it through. Like I did like one race and I literally must have rewound it for the last 5 miles because it was just how I got over, and it just keeps me going. Love that song.
Nina?
I'd say my one would definitely be it's a song by Dave and it's called "In the Fire," and I think it's a little bit similar to what Jules was saying with her song, but again it's just one about kind of overcoming things, and it's a nice long song as well, and it's got loads of different artists on it, so it's interesting to listen to for a long time.
Well, our running playlist 5 episodes in is truly the work of a demented mind, so I love it. There is literally something for everybody, irrespective of taste. All that's left to do, ladies, is to thank you. With this coming out on International Women's Day, I couldn't think of 2 better people to share this conversation with. I am delighted to have found out more about what ERC are, what they do, and why they started. But most of all, I'm just grateful that you've given me the time. So thank you so much for coming to talk to me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank
Ryan.
you. I should say that ERC ladies are doing a chat on International Women's Day as well in conjunction with Lululemon. So check that out on our socials, Ryan, and you'll.
So I did see that. This will come out on the day of that, but what I'll do, I usually do a guest announcement the week before, so I'll announce it and I'll link to that as well so that people can see. Where is that? Is that online, or that's in person, isn't it?
In person.
That's in person, yeah, but we'll probably be doing some Instagram lives from there. But thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
My pleasure, absolutely is, and I hope you have a brilliant day, and I will keep listening, Jules, for the podcast. I know you were on a bit of a hiatus, but you're back, so
yes.
keep going. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant day.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
You too. Thanks, Ryan. Take
Cheers.
care.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Thank you to you, the listeners, for joining us for another episode of the Press Play and Run podcast. You can really help to support the podcast by subscribing or following on your podcast platform of choice and by leaving a review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Press Play and Run Podcast and to add the Press Play and Run playlist on Spotify. We'll be back every 2 weeks with new episodes, and please be sure to keep an eye on our Instagram page to find out which guests will be joining us. Until then, keep getting the trainers on, press play and run.